everyone, this is Via from Via Creates and welcome to this new video where I'm going to show y'all how I created my January setup. To start off my year of Enchanted Forest bullet journal themes, I was inspired by very storybook illustrations and I wanted to create an enchanted forest at night. So I kind of created this inset frame where I would create my illustration, and I have sketched it out already, so I just started filling it in by outlining, and I wanted to make sure that the letters were both in the illustration and outside of it to make it seem a little bit more like an interactive element and to have parts of the illustration popping off the page. This is a new pen that I got, and what's really nice about it is that it's dual-ended, so it has a fine liner side and more of a thicker marker side, and I love having that ability to just be able to switch between thicknesses. I'm only really outlining the lettering in black because I wanted everything else to have a little bit of a softer nostalgic feel, and sometimes a black outline can be a little bit too harsh for that. So I'm outlining the trees in brown, and these swirls, I don't know exactly what to call them, but just kind of like this magical element I'm outlining with blue. And I'm using a brush pen to outline the trees because they are the main focal point of the spread, so those lines are a little bit thicker and easier to see. I'm so excited to start doing these spreads. I think it's definitely something that I haven't done before in my bullet journal. And I have always loved fairy tale book illustrations, and so all of my spreads this year are going to be pretty heavily inspired by that style. And I've actually already planned out all the themes in advance, so I will be continuously planning them in my head, and I have a little notes app on my phone where I kind of write down my ideas as I go, and I have a Pinterest board where I'm saving all of my inspiration photos. So it's been a really fun process so far, and I really can't wait to see what the rest of the year holds for my bullet journal. This color of dark blue is absolutely gorgeous, and I was so excited to use it for the background. It was about halfway through filling in the sky that it started to die. So it actually took me a long time to finish filling in everything because I had to keep storing it upside down for a couple of hours so that it could kind of let the ink flow to the tip of the pen, and then I would use it a little bit and then I would let it wait for a little bit. And I was really worried that it would not fill in the whole sky because I didn't have another marker this color. And it's fairly old, and I have a newer set of Crayola Supertips that just were in a different location, so didn't have access to them, and that color of blue is very different from this older version, so I didn't really have a way to fill it in with the same color if this did run out. Luckily, I was able to salvage it, but in the other spread where I use this for the background, you can definitely see where the pigmentation starts going away. I feel like no enchanted forest is complete without mushrooms and kind of like a fairy ring style, so I included those in the grasses as well. And here you can see me starting to fill in the details on the trees, and I really liked the idea of doing birch trees for this spread because they have a really distinctive bark, and because the night sky was so dark, I really wanted them to stand out, and having kind of the white papery part of the bark contrast with the dark sky made a really cool look for the spread. This was definitely the most challenging part because I had so many details that I was outlining, and it took a long time, but it was also a little bit relaxing because I could just put on my podcast and outline everything and just kind of not have to think too hard. And then coloring it in was a longer process as well, but once again, it was something that I could just kind of turn off my brain for, especially because I was doing it all in one color. There is a little bit of contrast where I went over some parts of it twice or 3 times to get a darker color to show kind of the layers in the grass. But other than that, it was pretty simple color-wise, and I wanted to keep everything in kind of blue tones so that it would be really cohesive. And I think that really helped to keep the spread interesting but not too busy, because there are so many elements in here that if I had included a lot of colors or even more details, it might have been a little bit overwhelming. This is another one of my favorite markers that is really old and kind of dying. The soft brown color is so nice, and I love how this looked for the shadows in this spread because it does add that contrast, but you can still tell that it's a really white tree. And luckily I do have a replacement for this color, so when it does eventually die, I'll still be able to use it more. So I felt a little bit more secure using it in this spread. I added in some of these brown paper bag pieces, and this one actually, incidentally, I used as a watercolor background, and it looked a bit like a birch tree, so it was kind of fun to use this in the spread, and it kind of continued that theme throughout here. One of the elements that I'm including in all of my spreads as well is just a little snippet, as if I was describing a fairy tale scene in my spreads, to really connect with the enchanted forest theme. quote page. This honestly might be my favorite bullet journal spread I've ever done. It is so pretty and so magical. I'm keeping my reading list and habit tracker spread very similar to how I did them last year. I really liked the way that this layout worked for me because since I'm in college, I'm definitely reading a lot less books than I used to, and I don't need a whole page to keep track of my books, and I don't want to track a ton of habits as well, just a couple of important ones so that I can see any progress that I have in that. But I don't want to overwhelm myself by asking me to keep track of everything. I'm always so impressed by people who can do that because I think it's really fun to kind of have that data about yourself. But I know myself and I don't always remember to fill them in on time. So only having 2 or 3 habits that I track every month is the perfect amount to learn something new about myself, to keep myself accountable, but not to become so overwhelming that I just don't do them entirely. I'm really looking forward to having some time to read this month because I have a couple of weeks before school begins in January, and so that gives me time to sit down with a good book, maybe on a day when the weather's a little bit rainy, and just enjoy some time relaxing. I don't really get to do that a lot during the semester, so it's a nice treat when I have the time to do that. I didn't show the process for how I wrote the title for the habits just because I ended up covering it up later with a different piece of paper, which you'll see I think in the final look, because I just did not like how it looked when I filled in the background eventually. And these habit trackers are the same that I do every month. I will put the dimensions up here, and that way you'll be able to see what I do, but I use a ruler instead of like the little dot grids, just because I didn't always have a dot grid journal, and so that's just what I've done for a long time. Despite the little mistakes in the habit tracker part, I really like how this spread turned out, especially with the background. I am doing a kind of new thing with my quote page this year, so I'm still including all of my quotes that I have in my planner, so I have a quote for each week, but I'm not doing it in 2 pages, I'm just doing it on 1 page this year, just because that saves space and also time, because I'm just a busier person now than I was before. So this will be a lot quicker for me, which is very nice, and I can still include lots of detail like these trees and some of the grasses and mushrooms as well in the spread. After outlining everything and writing all of the quotes, I'm going in and adding in some extra color. So I'm using this really pretty light brown marker again, and then each quote is going to be a different color of my theme, just because I love adding all sorts of colors into my bullet journal. And now I'm just doing the final details, so coloring in the grasses and the mushrooms. And then I am still continuing the dark blue sky in the sides of this page behind the trees. And I think it turned out really cool because it kind of looks like one page bleeds into another a little bit. And so it kind of helps to create a more cohesive illustration with the 2 pages next to each other. And here's the quote page. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing the process of how I created my January bullet journal spreads. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.